Welcome to the Build a Purposeful, Profitable Business Doing What You Absolutely Love podcast, hosted weekly by Ange, your business fairy godmother, professional copywriter, published author and business owner of 20 years. In every episode, Ange will deliver useful bite-sized insights to help you find your voice, position your value, demystify the marketing tech, and run your business on your terms.
Okay, welcome to this episode of the podcast, and I'm delighted to have today my special guest, Caleb Sim from Genia, and he's an SEO expert, which means he helps businesses get found on search engines. So, good morning, Caleb. How are you today?
Morning, Ange. Thanks for having me on board. I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling excited. It's one of my first interviews.
Oh, great. Okay. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get into the interview.
Yeah. So I started my first company about 5 years back when I was 18. So I'm 23 this year, just before I started poly, right? And that set me on a path that really changed my life. And so today I'm working with Genia. It's my, I'd say, maybe fourth or fifth company. But everything between the first and my fourth and fifth was quite a failure. So that's where I am right now.
Okay. Well, the good thing there is that actually we learn the most through our failures, I think. So you probably have a lot of expertise that you can share with the audience today about the pitfalls of starting a business and what not to do.
Yeah, I think I've had because I don't know if you have you heard of the strengths, strengths, the Clifton strengths.
Yes.
Right. So my top strength is activator. So recently I did it and then I learned, right, I'm an activator. So I'm going around starting everything that comes to my mind. So that's why I've had 4 to 5 businesses with more than half failing because half don't make sense at all. So
okay, so you get really excited about things, you make a decision quickly and you go ahead and you do it, and then you lose interest and things fall after that. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, so tell me about, so we're talking today about starting a business with no money down. And you mentioned that you started your first business while you were in poly. So you hadn't even graduated at that time and you already were an entrepreneur, okay, which is really impressive. So congratulations for that. So tell me a bit about how that all started and why it failed. What were the mistakes that you made at that point?
I didn't exactly start it while I was in poly. I actually started it a couple of months before I entered poly.
Oh,
so
okay.
How it got started was I was working right out of my O level, so I was 17 at the time. I started working for this software company, and I was selling CRM, HRM systems to SMEs, and I was doing pretty well. So I was selling faster than my peers, and the commission was quite good. It was $1,000 per sale, and I was a 17-year-old boy, so it was just a lot of money, and I was really excited. And I started hanging out where the project managers were, where the development teams were sitting. And then I just started to see how the softwares were being developed, like how everything was coming about. And then I don't know when it came in, but I suddenly realized that, hey, I can do this myself. I don't need to sell for this company because each software was going at $5,000. So I said, why do I have to take 20% when I could take 90%, right, or 95%? So that's when I went online. I looked at India. I went to try to find a developer. And I found a developer to work with. So that's how I started my business. But of course, I know money. When you're a kid, you earn $1,000, you spend $1,000. So I started the business. And what I did was I went to find first client. Right? I remember I was selling a POS system. It's a software. So I didn't sell the hardware. And it was an optical shop that I sold to. So I pitched to them a product that I did not have. And the minute he gave me a check, okay, I'm going to develop my POS now. So I went to my developers based in India, and I had them develop the software for me. So that's how my first product came about. And of course, back then I think my profit margin was like 97%, 98%. So once I had my first product developed, I quickly went to develop some CRMs, HRMs, and I just quickly multiplied and started, and it was going fast, right? Because the government was supporting the with grants at that time, so the business grew quite quickly. I managed to hire a few salespeople and managed to really grow the sales quite quickly. And yeah, that's how I started the business, and that's kind of what happened along the way.
Okay, so it really was a case of sell it before you build it. Right?
Yeah. So when you sell it before you build it,
So then,
you get the money and you validate, that there's a market for it.
yeah, you've got the demand, so then you go and build it after that. Okay. So what happened to that business?
It went really well. So I would a lot of people have a sideline business while in school. I think for my case, I was more of being in school as a sideline, and I was full time on the business. So my heart wasn't in school at all. I ended up dropping out of school. So, but the business was doing really well. At the time, I was about 18 years old now. Then, right, and I was making about five figures a month. So it was a lot of money for a kid. And then the worst thing that could have happened to my business back then was that the government stopped the funding, right? Because way too many people were using it, and those who were not got cut. So when the government stopped the grant, I couldn't sell the systems anymore because my softwares were not good enough, right? Because I'm not a developer, I didn't really know what I was doing, right? But I was able to sell it so easily because people were getting it for free. So now that nobody is paying for it, I couldn't sell it. And then I just realized that I don't have a business anymore and I'm out of school. So that was quite a difficult period.
Okay, so nobody wanted to actually buy it if the government wasn't paying for it for them. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The softwares weren't good at all. I didn't pay any attention to the quality of the system. I was like, just get me a system that looks good enough so that I can sell it to, because I'm not a tech guy. Even though I studied tech in school, but I'm just not a tech guy at all. So I just couldn't really understand how the systems work. And if people have to fork out 5,000 in cash for it, there's no way they'll do it when they can get cheaper options and much better options.
Right. So you said that you weren't focused on the quality and that the systems weren't actually very good. So what learning takeaway did you take away from that?
It's really that your name or our reputation is worth more than any money we can make.
Yeah.
So at the time I was, like I said again, I was 18, so I've had people complain about the quality of my service, and I didn't really get that back then. But that was a very big learning lesson because I'm going to be a businessman all my life, and my reputation is going to be worth more than any amount of money. And so that was a very good lesson for me, and I'm glad I learned it young. To make sure that the quality of to make sure that I'm not going to sell something I cannot deliver. I'm not going to sell something I'm unsure about. So that's the difference between me in the past, where as long as I see money, I was just say, yes, I can do it. If people ask me, can you develop an ERP system? Yes, I can develop an ERP system. I just, whatever you ask me, I say, yes, I can do. And then when it's time to deliver, and I get stuck.
Yeah, they're not easy things to build you as well. Yeah, to get them right. Okay, so what was your next business, or how did you move on from there, and how did you take that learning forward?
I think I was about 19 or 20 at the time, and I was out of school, so I was kind of living in limbo, and I actually don't have a business, but I still have a lot of money. So that's when I started a few other businesses. I tried to start a web hosting company. I started a casual labor business, providing casual labor to hotels. So I actually even got a contract from Shangri-La at that time. But after I looked at the contract, I learned my first lesson and say, all right, no over-promising. I don't think I can deliver this. So I started a private limited labor pool, I remember, and then I shuttered it because I realized, okay, I'm not going to be able to deliver it. So what I did next was I went to do an internship, just to make sure that I learned how to do business properly. And after that, I entered the army. So I was in the army, midway through, I was getting a bit panicky. I think unfortunately, people in the army in Singapore, when they're in the army, their life stops as a whole. right? They forget there's going to be a life after.
Right.
But for me, I know I'm going to leave the army and I'm going to have to do something, and I'm not going to work for any other person. So I better start something while I'm in the army. And that's where I came across SEO. I've had brushes with SEO previously, but of course I had totally no clue what I was doing. So I wanted to get into SEO because of my dad's business. Right? I saw how it was able to transform and grow his business by just showing up on the first page of Google. Right.
Okay. Can you just explain to the listeners a little bit about what SEO is? So some people might not actually know.
Yeah. So SEO is the process of convincing Google that your website is the best possible answer for a search query. So when we search Google, we don't scroll to the second or the third page. We stop at the first page because Google has a certain set of algorithms to filter out answers that are not relevant, answers that are of low quality, and that's why we get good results on the first page. So that is what SEO is: getting websites, making websites the best they can be, so that Google puts them on the top page.
Okay. Yeah. So how did that business start?
Yeah.
How did you start that one?
I was in the army, the second year of the army, and I picked up my first client. It was a PR agency. It was quite informal. Back then, I had one more business going. Thankfully, that business was making some money, and I was using another business to bill for this SEO. So we picked up this SEO. I charged really low, terribly low, but it was okay. They were like a guinea pig, and I found a colleague to work with in India, and we managed to deliver good results. So the results were quite good. They were ranking on the first page of Google, and that's where I realized I found, hey, I've got a business. So I started signing one or two more clients just before I left the army, and so that gave me the confidence, that after I leave the army, this is something that I can really deliver, because I don't want to be selling something that I cannot deliver. I won't be able to
you learned that lesson.
Yeah, I'm not that type.
Okay. Okay. So that's really interesting that you then went into SEO, which is great. What about your mindset? What would you say would influence your mindset as an entrepreneur?
I think.
What are the challenges maybe that you have, or the worries, and how do you overcome them? How do you continue on in business where maybe a lot of people would give up?
I think as an entrepreneur, there's mainly two emotions that I feel most of the time. One would be worry, and the other would be confidence. So it's like these two, they're just taking turns, to show up. And when the confidence show up, I'll feel really great. I feel like Mark Zuckerberg, especially when I was at 18, and I just felt so great. Like when it was time to drop out of school, I was so excited to do it. Right. So my mindset is shifting between worrying and confidence. So I'll explain a bit. One is that I cannot bear the thought of working for someone else. To me, it doesn't make sense at all. Right? Like, why would I, take a couple of thousands and then put in all my effort to build someone else's business? So when I'm working for someone else, my attitude suddenly becomes horrible. Right? I just cannot bring myself to work hard when it's not my business, because I've worked for other people before. Of course, in my internship, I do my best, but in a real work environment, I find it very hard to work for other people. So the worries, during my business that I fear, that I feel every day, the fear of becoming average. Like, that's one throughout my life. Like, I keep thinking, what if I end up, because I've always been starting business, what if I end up just becoming average Joe? I can't do a business and I just got to take a regular paycheck. That scares me. That really scares me, right? So I fear that I can't achieve the life that I want, right? I do want to live. I'm not an extravagant spender, but I don't want to have to, to worry about money. So that's what I fear also. So, and when I'm in my business, I fear that I can't deliver results, even though we're doing pretty well delivering results. But it's just, your mind will play tricks and just tell you that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I'll start to worry about the results that we can deliver to our clients, even though it's going well, right? So, but this is battling with the other side of me that is extremely confident, right? So I wouldn't be starting so many businesses if I'm not confident. Inside me, I'm extremely confident that it's not going to sound nice, but I'm one of the smartest people around. That's how I feel. And I'm also always very confident that I'm going to succeed. Like, inside me, I just have this feeling, this confidence that I'm destined for something great. So when I go and do something, I have this feeling, I'm confident, I act on it. But then another side will creep up. and it's like a reality check and say, hey, actually you're not that smart, right? Look at your businesses, it's failed. Look at the guy that is doing better than you. So it's always inside me, it's these two battling together, but it's always managing that worry, because it's definitely going to come. And then once that confidence comes, I'm going to have to ride that wave, do whatever I need to do. Because in business, when you're in that state of worry, you can't sell, you can't convince people that you know what you're doing. But when I'm in the state of confidence, that's where, when I talk to clients, I talk to partners, when I network, people, I guess that's where people are drawn to me, because they feel like, hey, actually, I'm going to make it because I'm so confident. But it's really about managing these two states, because you definitely bounce between them. You just got to manage the worry and ride on the confidence that comes.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. I think to make people aware when they're starting a business that those feelings are natural, and that you do literally one day feel on top of the world and the next day you can feel absolutely miserable, right? Sometimes. And you have that nagging doubt, this little voice that tells you you're not good enough or whatever. And so this is something that's completely natural, and it's part, I think, of the entrepreneurial journey. And I think as well, you're so right in saying that when you are confident, it comes through. So it sells for you because you're so confident. People see it, and they also see if you're desperate.
Yeah.
So you're not going to make sales if you're desperate as well. So mindset is crucial in that.
It's all in our tone. Right? You can't hide or worry in your tone. But of course, do not manufacture the confidence if your product is horrible. Right? You can feel good about yourself, but don't manufacture that confidence in your product, because you're going to get away with it once or twice, and then after that, you're going to have a lot of problems coming up.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah. So I've experienced that before, because I think somehow I'm able to manufacture confidence when I'm like, in the past, like certain products, I have no clue about what I'm talking about, but somehow I can manufacture confidence within and then just sound like an expert in the field. But of course, you won't get away with it too much. So you got to have a real solid product.
Right. So basically what you're saying basically is you've got to have integrity as well. So you've got to have if you haven't got a good product, basically don't sell it. If you have, then you have the confidence to go and sell it. Right. Okay. So just a final question before we wrap up. What advice would you give to someone of any age, basically, who wants to start their own business?
I think go for it. And the reason I say that is that I believe that entrepreneurs and business people are the greatest people on earth, because we create jobs, we give value, right? We take care of the people around us with what we make, and we have the ability to help others with our business, with our services, and with the money we make from our business. So just do it, right? If you're thinking, should I be an entrepreneur? It's a noble profession, a noble career, like being a policeman or being a doctor. We are the greatest people on earth. That's how I feel. But don't start a business just because you're passionate about something. Like if you like to bake, don't go and start a bakery just because of that. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you validate your market. Try, unless you come from a really rich family, don't go up and open up a physical store, open up the best restaurant, buy the best equipment. Try to start with as little as possible. The chances of failure is really high, but we should still do it anyway. So don't start because of a passion, but start because there's a market, right? That people want your service and you can meet the demand. So that's very important.
Right.
You can meet the demand.
But yeah, it's really important to make sure that there is demand out there. So you've got to test and make sure that there is demand for your services. But as long as you have that, I think as well, passion drives you in that sense. If there is a market and you're going to be delivering value for people, that's a really good place to start a business.
Yeah.
I think.
So if there's a demand, there's a market, then you can let your passion drive you, because your passion, again, people will feel your passion. You can't start a business that you totally have no passion about, right? It's like, I can't go and
you'll be doing it every day for the rest of your life.
I can't go and start a cosmetic business now. It's I wouldn't mind, right? But I wouldn't be the person that can drive the company forward. I can probably be handling the business side of things. So there has to be passion, whether it's about helping people, whether it's about just business itself. But you can't start based on just passion alone. I guess you can. There are people who have done it, but you just got to be more calculated than saying, all right, I love to cook, I'm going to start a restaurant. It's not that you can't start with passion. You have to be more calculated, and you've got to be more strategic, I'd say.
Right. Okay. And Caleb, just before we go, can you let the listeners know how can they find you if they want more information?
For a start, on a social level, you can find me at my LinkedIn. So it's Caleb Sim. My tagline is, I help make invisible businesses visible. So that's me. Or you can visit my website. So if you need help with growing your business, you need some ideas, you feel in a position of growth, you can visit our website at https. Okay, forget the HTTPS, just key in thegenia.com. So that's thegenia.com. Or you can, if you want to listen to other interviews with business leaders around the world, you can go to my podcast at thevisionary.io, the Visionary Podcast. So that's where I'm reachable. So just drop me a message through LinkedIn or through my website, and we can have a chat.
Fantastic. Okay, I will put those links in the notes below this podcast. So if anyone is interested, they can just click the links as well. All right. So thank you so much, Caleb, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ange. Really enjoyed myself.